Afternoon, and I hope you're enjoying day 2. How are you feeling? You feel okay? Did you get some good rest last night? Yes, good. It's great to see your faces. Hey, I do have one delicate request. For those who are towards the back, if you don't mind, just maybe coming up a few rows. We want this to be family oriented. And we thank you so much for joining us for this afternoon session. We're confident that you're going to really enjoy what you hear from the individuals who are on the program. Again, thank you for joining us for part 2 of our Just for Family session. A couple of things I want to share very briefly. Oftentimes at orientation, welcome weekends, sessions, we really highlight to students that you are part of the community, and we want them to feel that. We want them to immediately feel connected, cultivate meaningful relationships with our student leaders and faculty and staff, and kind of share our vision and hopes for them. But I want to make sure on behalf of President Morris, our administration, our broader community, that we're sharing emphatically with all of you. I want you to hear this. Let me see your eyes on this one. You are also a part of this community. We want you to know that you're part of the village, and we feel so honored that you entrusted your student with us, and together we have the opportunity to invest in the holistic development of your student. And know that we don't take that for granted, and we really feel honored to have this type of sacred space with all of you, and for you to take time out to be a part of these experiences, not just for the air conditioning, even though that's nice, isn't it? Even though that's nice, but for us to bond as a community and to navigate this time of transition together. Please know that we don't take that for granted, and we really appreciate you for being here this afternoon. And so this afternoon, just to give you a sense of what's to come, you're going to hear from our Vice President of Advancement, Dr. Andrew Barton, and some of you've had the opportunity to meet with him, but he's going to talk about parent and family engagement because that's a priority for us. We want to have a sustained relationship with you beyond just this weekend, and so you'll hear a little bit about that. We're going to host a panel discussion that includes President Morris and First Lady Faith. You're going to have listen, it's going to be like a living room conversation. And so we're going to encourage you to take off your shoes. I don't know, some of your feet may be sweaty. Keep your shoes on. But we're going to have a really good time talking through some of the experiences of many of our parents who have navigated this transition with their students. And they're going to share some of their wisdom with you, some of their thoughts and insights. Some of it's going to be affirming for those of you who have had students go through the process. For others, it's going to be new information. But I'm glad that we'll be able to have that conversation together. But you'll hear first from one of our dear administrators here at APU. He actually serves in the office of the provost. You heard from Dr. Hink last night, and he works closely with her, Dr. Stephen Johnson. He's one of our associate provosts. One of the hallmarks of Christian higher education is this notion of faith integration. And that's not just two words that we couple together. We live it, we breathe it, and we want to make sure that parents, you understand what that means here at APU. And so the first person that's on our agenda is Dr. Stephen Johnson. Let me open our time in prayer, and then we'll give way to him. Please pray with me. God, thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for the wonderful parents who are in this space, who have a love for you, who have a love for their student. God, we are so honored that we welcome them into this APU community, that they are a part of this village, that we get to collaborate to support the holistic development of their students. And God, we don't take this time that we have with them for granted. God, we know that there's a ton of emotions that are permeating in this group, emotions of joy and happiness, but I can imagine that there's some sadness, and this is a time of adjustment. And so thank you for reminding us that you are present with us and that you bless us with peace. And we thank you for your abiding eternal provision. And so we just pray that you bless this time that we have together, and we dedicate it to you. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen. please help me welcome to the podium, Dr. Stephen Johnson.
Hello, good afternoon. We're so happy that you're here. So part of the work that I do is to help our faculty in areas of developing their own career and trajectory, but also supporting them in what they bring to the classroom experience. So we're going to talk a little bit about this role of academic faith integration and specifically a segment of courses within your students' experience. So for our students in one of our 63 undergraduate programs, they need to complete 3 different aspects of their academic journey. They have their major courses. These are the courses that has the title on the degree. If you're here to study business, your major courses would be your business courses. Nursing, it would be nursing. So we have our major courses. We also have what we call our general education courses. These are courses that help, they're liberal arts based, they help with critical thinking and development, and they prepare a student to think well and deeply during their life. We know within their university journey and beyond, they're going to encounter a number of changes in their life. Some of these changes may be planned changes, some would be unexpected changes. But these general education courses help bring that critical thinking capacity and refine it to a level that helps prepare them to think well into their lives. And then this third segment that they have to do, in addition to their major courses, their general education courses, they have courses in biblical and theological foundations. Our faculty and the administration believe that a grounding in the timeless Word of God alongside the exceptional teaching will strengthen your students, not only for the workforce, but for their life. So I'd like to talk now about this segment of courses in this biblical, theological, and philosophical foundations. Your student will take a course in ministry, a very broad title, but that broad title refers to a few options that they can select from that would help them to bring application of their Christian life into their community and into service. They'll have a ministry option. They'll have an option to take a course in the Old Testament. They'll have an option to take a course in the New Testament. They'll have philosophy course that they can take and a theological course. After they go through each one of these segments, they have an option to select something of deeper interest to them. You can call it a biblical study area. They might be able to take a course in the life and teachings of Jesus, Romans and Galatians, biblical lands and cultures. There's a whole slate of options there where they can choose a space where they want to dig a little bit deeper and to have some choice. Now, if you're in the Honors College, if you have a student in the Honors College, how you accomplish that particular pathway of courses that are listed up there, those will appear a little differently, but they cover all the same areas and all the same outcomes. And so this is that segment, that third segment. They have their major courses, they have their general education courses, and here are their biblical, theological, and philosophical foundation courses. Now, in addition to these specific slate of courses, we have what's called academic faith integration. And I'd like to walk through what that means. For each course at APU, every class across all of our degree programs, undergraduate, graduate, doctoral, certificate, across all the 159 programs, a faculty member is evaluated. They're evaluated by students, they're evaluated by their supervisors on how they accomplish 3 specific areas. No matter what the course, they have to accomplish, and they will be evaluated on how they are progressing and doing well in these 3 areas. The first area they have to address: this course helped me as a student better understand the relationship of Christian beliefs and values to the content area of the course. So that's the first. It's a wonderful thing to be exposed to high quality education, which is why we are here, to be prepared for advanced knowledge, to be ready to lead in the workplace for the jobs of the future, because of the knowledge of what your student will learn here in their classes at APU. However, we want to go further. What makes this education one that has a meaningful outcome in the life of our students is this connective tissue, this relationship of Christian beliefs and values to the specific and actual content that they are learning. Now, our faculty, when they come, they are vetted on a number of levels. They go through a very competitive process, and as a part of the interviews, they need to demonstrate exceptional aptitude and how they can, how they have, and how they will bring forth the relationship of Christian beliefs and values into this actual content of the course. They help guide our students through questions. How does my faith inform how I think about this, whatever the topic is? Do I look at this subject differently because of my faith? And how do these things relate together? So this relationship of Christian beliefs and values is the first area that our faculty are evaluated on every course, every semester. The second area, the professor modeled a Christian perspective on truth and life in her or his relationship with the students in this course. This is the second area. We don't just need someone to inform us with their words. We don't need to see it by itself. We need to have it modeled. We need to know it's authentic. It's our expectation of our faculty that they bring all of who they are into the classroom. Their job is not to just deliver the information, which is critical. They are to demonstrate with their lives a Christian perspective and to invest that perspective into your students. If your students see that their teacher is excellent, if they see that their teacher is authentic, and they see that their teacher deeply cares about your students, we are now in the life-changing category. We are now talking about a secret sauce. And in fact, as a part of this interview process for faculty, as they come through and they are grilled exceptionally well, and perhaps somewhat joyfully by other colleagues, in terms of should they be here, one of the questions that they're asked along the way is frequently a question that takes them by surprise and it takes them off guard. The question is, how do your students know that you love them? And it's wonderful to see their reactions to that. This combination of modeling a Christian perspective on truth and life into the relationship with the students. The third area is this course helped me to better understand a relationship of the Christian worldview to my life and a Christian worldview to my work in the world. In the end, we're investing in your students to prepare them to leave. We start right now, this weekend, day one, knowing that there's a countdown clock until they walk across this very stage into the next chapter that God has for them. They will be prepared academically. They will be skilled. They will be connected with industry. And in fact, our alumni are placed in very successful industries. And we regularly bring our alumni back along with industry leaders in their network to speak into the academic and educational life of our student. And that's important to us for a lot of levels to prepare them to make that next step into whatever God has for them, a small step, an easy step, a networked step, but also it's an example to show another level of modeling that here are students who have come through APU who are now out doing the work in the world, and they have to answer the hard questions. How do we show that we are different because of what we believe? How is the work that we do different because of our Christian worldview? So we want our students to be prepared on lots of levels, but they need to also know this connection of their faith to their life and this connection of their faith to the future work in the world. So this is a high priority for us at APU. This is what we call academic faith integration, this relationship of Christian beliefs and values to the content area for faculty to model what Christian perspective of truth and life looks like directly to the students. And we want our students to better understand this relationship of a Christian worldview to their life and work. So no matter what degree program your student is studying, the faculty are actively working to intentionally connect the importance of the Christian faith and Christian values into all aspects of your students' educational journey. Thank you for letting me have this time to talk a little bit about this important connective tissue as a part of your students' journey. I'd like to now introduce our Vice President for University Advancement, Dr. Andrew Barton.
Well, good afternoon. I must confess I'm feeling a bit, I'm feeling very red. Everyone else on the stage is on the range of white, grey to black, and I chose red, and I'm feeling like there's a lot of red. So if that's a visual challenge for you, I'm sorry. So my name is Andrew Barton. I'm currently in I think it's my 17th year at APU. I've had a variety of roles here, and currently serving as Vice President for University Advancement. So I just wanted a few minutes just to share with you what does that mean? What is my office responsible for, and how does that relate to you as parents, friends, and family? I'll start out by saying I have two children. One's a college junior and the other's a college freshman. So I know what it's like to be sitting in your chair. Not only have I experienced it working at this college and others, but as a parent I know what a special time this is. And I know that when your child chose APU, as Dr. Hall said earlier, you became part of the APU family. And I'm hoping, I've talked to a number of parents over these last couple of days that feel this. I hope you feel like you are part of this family, that we take our relationship with you and the responsibility with your children or child, we take that responsibility very carefully, and it's important to us. I'm confident standing on this stage that this is a God-ordained moment, because I've seen it year after year here, where parents entrust their children to APU, and God does something in the lives of your student. God does something in the lives of you and your family. Many of you are alums, but some of you, this is your first foray into APU. And I'm confident that God is going to do a work in and through your family, and I'm grateful for that. So what does University Advancement do? Well, look, I'm not going to be shy. There are four things that my department, me and my team, in partnership with the president, one of them is to raise money. Right, so please, over this weekend, or if you see or hear me, don't avoid me, don't walk on the other side. I'm not that crass, right? But people often wonder, well, is it hard to raise money? Well, of course it's hard to raise money, but I actually quite enjoy it, because having worked in a place and experienced this Christ-centered, God-first environment, I'm okay asking people, friends and family and those outside our community that care about a Christ-centered education, I'm okay asking for money, because I believe God provides in many, many ways to extend our mission. But we do ask for money, and I think each and every one of you are benefiting from that. I think pretty much every undergraduate student benefits from scholarships to attend APU, and many of them in whole or in part are provided by donors that have given in the past to invest in our mission and our students. So whether it be scholarships, whether it be buildings, facility improvements, faculty programs, we raise money each year for that. I'm often reminded, sitting in this venue, that the lead gift for this venue back in the 90s, when we acquired this side of the property, this campus, was rooted in a chapel where the president mentioned a desire to create a venue that would provide more space, serve the community in many ways. And it was a student that over dinner with a grandparent described this, and that grandparent happened to sit on a foundation. And out of that conversation, God provided a lead gift for this building. I feel like I should have been like the mayor last night. I should put my cell phone up. So just if any of you sit on foundations or have family members that sit on foundations, my cell phone number is 626-224-0767. Find me or the president. But no, I can't tell you how many times God has provided in miraculous ways to extend our mission. I want to let you know, because it's important, that we have hundreds of faculty and staff that give every year to this place. Not only do they give of their time, but they give of their money to invest in and expand your student experience. The other important thing that we do is to extend the intentional relationship we have alumni. We have a little over 70,000 alumni that have successfully graduated from APU, and a big part of my office is to maintain that lifelong connection with our alumni. Another role is to partner with the president as we go around the country to those that care about the mission of APU. And another piece of our office role is to make the connection with you, family and parents, meaningful, and so that you might engage the fullness of the APU's mission. So we're dedicated to doing that. Look, as a parent of a college student, I know it's quite healthy to stay away for a little while, but it's important to find that moment where you might want to come back on campus. I think every one of you should have received a two-sided handout when you registered or when you checked in yesterday. If you don't, I put some out on the other side of the televisions here. I want you to know there are a plethora of events that you can come to, so you have a good excuse to come on campus and meet your student, but also to engage in the fullness of the APU community. So listed here are ways in which you can learn about the full athletic schedule we have. If any of you are into theater and musicals, we've got two great opportunities this fall. Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella and Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express. Great reasons to come back and see the fullness of the university. October 21 is it's 8 weeks away, so it's perfect. You leave your kids for 8 weeks. You say, hey, I'm coming back for Dinner Rally. Dinner Rally, if you don't know, is our annual gala where we sit in this room. It's tables, dressed beautifully. We celebrate the mission of APU and the impact. This year it's 125 years. We raise money for scholarships, but it's just it's an amazing expression of our mission. So I would encourage you to look at that event. We've got Christmas tree lightings that we do. We've got School of Music celebrations that we do. In February, we've got a homecoming for alumni, family, and friends. So lots to come. And also I should say, and those of you that are out of state that say, hey, Andrew, I can't get back easily, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10:30 we have chapel. So if you want to go to apu.edu/live, L-I-V-E, at 10:30 on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you can participate and engage in the chapel that your student will be experiencing. Again, a beautiful way to be a part of this community. There are many other ways in which you can get involved. You'll be getting a parent survey in the next couple of weeks from my office asking what are the ways in which you would like to either stay engaged or engage or receive information from our parents' office. So look for that. There'll be newsletters that keep you up to date. There'll be prayer emails coming out from the president's office. There'll be some opportunities via Zoom this semester and next semester where, again, you can just hear about what's going on at APU and ways to stay engaged. So there's a lot of things that come out of my office. Again, don't put me to voicemail if I ever call you. Don't send my emails to your junk folder, because I'm all about partnering with my colleagues to not only extend the mission of APU, but to make your students and your experience of APU a special and meaningful one. So thank you for just sharing a few minutes with me. I want to reintroduce my friend and colleague, Keith Hall, back, and I think he's going to lead a panel discussion. So again, if you have family members that want to invest in APU, yourself, 626-224-0767. Thank you. Keith.
Can we give Andrew another round of applause? It's fantastic. Grateful for him and his leadership. Man, I wish I had that British accent. Isn't that cool? Good stuff. Listen, for the next few moments, we're going to participate in a conversation that features some of our esteemed colleagues here at APU who have gone through, the season of transitions with their students. And so we hope you really enjoy this conversation. I'm going to ask that we maybe bring up the lights. That way we can see the audience And so thank you, team, for doing that. And then let me quickly acknowledge parents and family members who couldn't be physically here in Felix, but perhaps you're joining us via live stream. We thank you for being with us and participating in this conversation. So let me quickly introduce our panelists. We're so honored that they are being gracious with your time, but also their experiences. And so our first two panelists, and please give them a rousing applause as they take to the stage. First, we have President Adam J. Morris and First Lady Faith Morris. Give them a huge round of applause. So delighted to have them join us. Next, we have our interim dean for the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, Dr. Louise Wong. And then we also have our executive director of the Department of Campus Safety. You'll hear from him a little bit later as well beyond this panel discussion, E.D. Paul Dennis. And then we have, rounding out the panel, our director of TRIO programs. Some of you may not know this, but APU has been awarded 2 TRIO projects from the Department of Education. And we're talking about multi-million-dollar projects to give us resource to support our students who identify as first-generation college students. Armando has worked with a ton of high school as well as existing collegiate students, and so we're so delighted to have him on the panel, Director of TRIO Programs here at APU, Armando Bustos. Give him a round of applause. And I'm so sorry, but you have to deal with me. I'm the moderator. I mean, everybody else was busy. No, I'm just teasing. I'm very honored to serve as the moderator with this competent panel. Hey, can y'all give them a huge round of applause again? Let them know that you appreciate them for serving on this panel. All right. See, I'm already messing up as a moderator. I don't even have my mic. So there. All right, so let's start with the first question. We can imagine in this space we have families who are experiencing an array of emotions, ranging from joy to sadness, especially anticipating the upcoming departure. To develop a space of presence and empathy, panelists, will you be so kind first to introduce yourselves, but then share with the group, how did you handle the emotions of dealing with this adjustment? It can be quite overwhelming. President Morris, you kind of alluded to it last night, the lump in the throat. I definitely felt that when I dropped my kid off. So if each of you can share just a quick introduction, maybe your student's name, when they transition, and then how did you deal with the emotion that was tied to that transition?
Maybe we'll go first. Is that fine?
Yes. That would be fantastic.
Yes. So Adam and Faith Morris. So our kids are 26, 27, 29, and 31. And so it's been a few years since we were sitting in similar seats on opening weekend. Your question, how did we handle it? I'd speak for myself and say, at least initially, not very well. It was hard. It was really hard. I was thinking this morning, I remember specifically, we were on a vacation when we were a couple weeks away from dropping off our son, our oldest son, so that would have been our first to go to college. And we were in Arizona. I think we were like somewhere near the Grand Canyon. We were in a Chevy Suburban. I'm driving, full day, literally everyone in the car is asleep. And I look up in the rearview mirror and I see my son who's asleep against the window, and I just start crying. And I thought, oh my goodness, right? Like as a dad, I was feeling like, all of these years cultivating this tight family unit and feeling like the equilibrium was about to change in our home, and almost feeling like what I had worked so hard to cultivate was about to be sort of dismantled. And to be honest, I didn't like it, right? It was just a raw emotion. And I remember going to opening weekend, and truth be told, we were dropping our kids off at the school where I worked. And so maybe that shows you how weak I was or maybe still am. But it was just an emotional thing for us. to be at that stage in life where we were dropping off our first child. And I will tell you, all 4 of our kids went to the same school, and it got a little bit easier, but it was still the lump in the throat on opening weekend. It was still very real. And what we'll talk about, I think, a little bit later on in our time together today, I mean, we totally found our stride. Our kids found their stride. We found our stride. And I think as more and more of our kids started college, I realized that, like, I don't want to rob them of the joy on opening weekend of this sort of rite of passage moment as they're about to step into something that is so amazing. My college years were spectacular, in part because I met my wife in college. But I think, wow, you know, like, I don't want to, on opening weekend, I don't want to rob my kids of the joy of what they're about to experience. It's not what I'm losing, it's what they're gaining. And so I had to do, you know, a bit of a mental shift as we dropped off child after child after child. But the lump in the throat was still there. Yeah.
Faith?
Okay, so I'm Faith, Adam's wife, and as Adam said, we have 4 children, all very close in age. We had 4 kids in 5.5 years, and we're a very close, tight-knit family. And so, yes, to drop off our first son at the institution where my husband worked was very emotional, and remained just as emotional for number 2, 3, and 4. But as Dr. Hall said last night, if you're feeling the emotions of the weekend and you're anticipating that goodbye, know that the emotions you're feeling are entirely normal. Very, very normal. So don't be hard on yourself for feeling the way you're feeling. Even dads in the room, as Dr. Hall said, sometimes it's harder for dads to feel free to express that, but very normal. Let your student know how much you love them and how proud you are of them. It's important that they hear you say that, especially before you say your goodbye, or even for commuter students. It's important. It's a milestone moment for them. And let them know you're proud of them. They're just starting their college experience. So I advise you have a meaningful goodbye and then go. And that'll be hard. That's hard. For us, and in a very strange way, for both of us, there was a sort of relief that came once the welcome weekend was behind us. The weekend that we had been anticipating, actually sometimes dreading all summer, was over, and the journey then began for them and us. And even as was alluded to last night, I think 1 or 2 of those years we actually planned a trip, and a day or 2 after, Adam and I went away. And that just kind of seemed to equalize things for us a little bit.
It's great. It's great. Louise, do you mind sharing?
Absolutely. So even though I was introduced with a title, I want you to know the title that I'm most proud of is I'm a proud mom of a rising junior here at APU. And just 2 years ago, I was sitting in your seat, going through the motions, even though I only live a mile away from campus. So it is not really very far. But believe it or not, when I went home after last night, Friday night, I saw an empty room, and the emotions came. And my husband was like, she's only across the street. But I'm like, you don't understand. He was ready to convert the room and, move in and get his study and all that, but I wasn't ready. So I am really grateful, actually, for APU, even though I've worked here for a while. I never experienced it as a parent during Welcome Week. I am so glad you took the first important step to be here for your student and with your student. I can truly say after the whole weekend, I was ready. And because of all the different events, and also, I'm not going to give it away, tomorrow morning is very special. I hope you can be here, and if you have plans, I hope you can change your plans so that you can be here as a family to support your student. I think that really helped me. Again, I'm not going to give it away, so you're going to have to come tomorrow. And I think just knowing and seeing that my daughter, this is our firstborn, growing and being more independent is really rightly so. And knowing that that is what God wants for her gives me some peace to know that it is okay. She's in good hands. So I want to encourage you, get to know other parents. I think getting to know my daughter's roommates' parents also allow me to share with them and get to know them. I think that's some reassurance as well. And I'm so glad you are here. I think you made the good decision to be here.
Well, good afternoon. Well, I think for me, maybe a little different. The journey was exciting in the Dennis household, quite frankly. And it was exciting because I have 3 children. My oldest graduated from Biola University a couple of years ago as a student athlete, and my middle daughter graduated just this past May from here at APU in the animation program. She's an artist. If you have Instagram, follow her on Candymation with a K. Yeah. Had to give her a plug. Got to give her a plug. But in the Dennis household, college was something from a very early age that they knew was going to be a part of their life and their academic journey, I should say. And they embraced it at an early age. And so for me, I just enjoyed being able to take that ride. Right? I mentioned my son was a student athlete, and so in elementary school, he identified a passion to play basketball with a goal of, not making the NBA or anything like that, but with the goal of being a student athlete and playing a game that he loves and using it as a vehicle to get his education. So I got on that bus with him. And the day that he received a call from the coach there offering him an opportunity to play, it was wonderful. And so I just rode that excitement that he had. And the same thing with my daughter. She discovered a passion for art at about 10 years old. And I kid you not, from the day that she discovered that passion, she never put the pencil down. And as a parent, all I did was just whatever I could do to fuel that, to enable that. And then when she got to college, she was just all in on that. And again, I just stood back and made sure that I was positioned to support her journey. And any apprehensions or fears or whatnot that I may have, I turned them to God and my wife and we talked them out, but we didn't push that over to her. And that strategy worked in the Dennis household. It really helped us manage any empty nest, if you would, syndrome, even though I have a younger one at home still, so we weren't quite an empty nest, but the house was a lot quieter. But really just enjoying their excitement of entering that phase of life and that chapter of life and being a big cheerleader for them, it worked for us.
Great. Can we give Edie Dennis a round of applause? Appreciate him. Hey, I need you to do me a favor. Armando and his wife just joined the ranks of being a parent. And Armando, how old is your little one?
18 months.
18 months. Can we give them a huge round of applause? But we had to have Armando on this panel. He has walked with so many of our first generation students and families, commuter students through this process, and so we're so thrilled that he's on stage. One topic that's come up in some informal conversations with some of the family members here is, how do I strike the balance between respecting the autonomy of my student but staying connected? We know Welcome Weekend will culminate for families. I'm sorry to say this, families, tomorrow. I know it's coming quickly. And I know it's a process and an adjustment, but can you give advice on how you handle that? How do you strike that delicate balance between supporting the autonomy of your student, but also still staying connected and maintaining relationship, even though the dynamic may be a bit different?
Yes, I'm happy to share on that. And one thing you'll notice about your students' lives and their schedules, that's going to dramatically change. No longer are they just in school from 8 to 3 and maybe activities afterwards. When you're in college, it's all-consuming enterprise. And so that's something to make note of first is that your students' availability may change a little bit, right? They may not be able to call you or pick up a phone at any given time. And so I think if understanding that as a parent will be really important. But I think also having a conversation with your student on kind of managing the expectations, right? of how often can we communicate, how often can you come home, right? All those things are going to be really important. And for our commuter students, they're going to be at home, but not really at home because they're going to be up all night studying. Their schedule's going to be different. And so I think as parents, one thing you can always do, and it's as simple as ask them about their day, right? Ask them about their classes. Take an interest in what they're learning, because that's important as a student. You know that you're in their corner because you're caring about and asking those questions. So I think that's something you can always do. Understand they're going to be busy, having difficult days, tough days, easy days, but always know that you're there to ask them those questions. How are you doing? Whether they're at home, on campus, that's something you can always do.
Really good. You know, last night we talked about students. When we polled our students, they want parents to ask questions and to inquire about their journey, but they don't want too many questions where it feels investigative. But how important it is to stay engaged. So appreciate those comments by Armando. I would love to hear from other panelists, maybe not from everybody, but man, how did you strike that balance? When did it feel more seamless and like you felt like, okay, we've hit our stride in terms of, yes, we're connected, but I also feel like I'm supporting their autonomy as they're becoming more independent as a collegiate student?
I think you gave some great advice last night, Dr. Hall. To not maybe have super high expectations in the next couple days, maybe even the next week or two, that you're going to hear from your student multiple times a day. That might not happen. You might not hear from them for a couple days, and that's okay. If your student is commuting, I think you alluded to this last night as well, they probably don't want to walk in the door at the end of the day and then, feel like they need to give you the play-by-play of every single thing that happened throughout the day. I know one of the things that Faith and I tried to do as our kids were entering college and then adjusting to college, and as we were sort of learning how to find our stride, when they would come home, especially after, you're halfway through the semester, and then when you're a couple semesters in, right, you really do have a rhythm. And we found that our kids really love to be home. We wouldn't see them maybe as often as we would have liked to, but when they would come home, there's something special about being home, right? A home-cooked meal. Of course, they bring their laundry. The girls more than the boys. It seemed like the boys didn't bring their laundry very often. But I would look for informal moments to just kind of casually bring up conversation. So I would say, for example, to my son Josh, hey Josh, I got to run down to the store, do you need anything? And he'd be like, actually I do, I need a couple things. I go, hey, well, come with me, let's go. So then we go down, we're driving down to Albertsons, and I'll say, hey, do you want to stop at Starbucks? Yeah, we'll stop at Starbucks. So then when we're out kind of in this informal, right, it's not an investigation, right, to your point last night, it's very informal, and I would just ask him, so, hey bud, how's it going? How are you doing? Tell me about college life. And just these informal, and then the conversation just starts to open. Yeah. And so it's just a different approach than them feeling sort of grilled, with all these questions. And we just tried to cultivate with our kids this organic way of entering into meaningful conversation. And over time, we would just hear more and more and more. And then it gave us the reassurance that they're doing okay, right?
Great, it's great. Have one more person that would like to tackle that question, finding the rhythm of balancing, respecting the autonomy of the student, but also still staying connected.
So I think in our case, it is important because my husband and I both work on campus to give our daughter extra space to grow. So we actually didn't bug her at all the first semester. We didn't set up monthly or weekly lunches or anything like that. But we took the informal route. When she reached out to us, we responded. Whether it was on a text or a phone call, we recognized that, she is coming to us, so we have to really respond. And that worked out really well, and that opened up opportunities to whether take her to grocery or take her to boba or do some shopping on the side, whatnot. So I always cherish those small moments, even driving her from, a 5-minute destination, whatnot. Those are really cherished conversations.
It's really good, really good. I was actually talking to my son. He's in Arizona on the way to campus. Like, Dad, you had a late night? I said, yeah, we had a great time. He said, did you tell any stories about me? I said, a couple. But I love what Louise and what President Morris is sharing, seizing those informal moments that come up organically as an opportunity to engage and delve a little bit deeper. I think that's just a really wise and prudent approach to take. And so thanks so much for sharing it. The college experience is obviously filled with a lot of highs. Moments that are energizing. Many of us can attest to that. Moments that are filled with zest and fun. But the experience can also be filled with challenges. And so maybe a couple of you can share with our family members that are here, how did you approach conversation, engagement with your student when they engaged these challenging moments? And it may have been academically, relationally, maybe they're disappointed with a grade that they received, some experience in the residence hall or maybe at work. How did you approach that, considering that, they're an adult? Obviously, you want them to be able to critically think and to grow, to support their autonomy, but you're still the parent. And so can you talk a little bit, maybe even share a story or an account of how you handle a scenario such as that?
I'll start with that one. With my daughter, during her senior year, things got a bit overwhelming in the animation program. They have to do a short film. And I remember her being up, late nights, or telling me about being up late nights to finish her film on time as her final project, and then also other opportunities, external opportunities, starting to float her way, because she's thinking about the next step, what after college. And for me, the approach that I took was, I sensed that she wasn't looking for an answer from me, right? She was just looking for a trusted ear, someone to allow her to verbalize her thought processes and her decisions and what she wants to do. And I think the worst thing in that moment that I could have done would have been to tell her what I think she should do, right? Because I don't think that's what she was seeking from me. I think she was just tapping into the love and the relationship and the respect that we have for one another, that we've nurtured over she was 23 at the time, our 23-year relationship, and that connection that we've built, right? We've all been on a journey to get our loved ones to where they are today. Trust that. Trust that journey that you've been on with them. And so for me, it was just a matter of walking. And in this particular instance, she lived in University Village. We spent probably an hour just walking in University Village, and I was just listening.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Just listening.
Can we give him a round of applause for that response? It's really good, really good. Let's hear from others. Come on, President Morris.
I might add to that. So, in fact, I was even talking to a parent here just last night. I think there's this mental shift of, like a weekend like this. This is some of what you have raised your child for, right? This is the moment where it is, as I said earlier, a bit of a rite of passage, and we raise our kids for moments like these where we're now ready to help facilitate them leaving the nest, right? And so pre-college, I remember as a dad, sort of, especially with my two girls, being sort of in fix-it mode, right? So all their growing up years, if they're in distress, they need anything, right? As the dad, like, you just call me, text me, I'm on it. I'll just jump right in and help you. And so it is a mental shift and takes discipline now. If part of what we're doing in this season of life is helping our child to begin to enter into adulthood and to take ownership of more and more and more of their own life, and you gave great advice last night, it's just to avoid that natural temptation to get into fix-it mode right out of the gate. So your son calls home, your daughter calls home, they have an issue with a roommate, they have an issue with a class schedule. I mean, for me, right, natural tendency is just fix it. So who can I call? Who can I text? Who can I email? And so I took the advice that you shared last night. I totally agreed with you. I would often just ask my kids questions. Well, who have you called? Who have you talked to? What department? Do you know where you should go? Happy to jump in if they've tried everything and still aren't able to solve the problem. And hear me say, and I said it last night, I'll say it again today, we are here for you. We are here to serve you. You can call us, you can email us. I'll put Keith's phone number up on the big screen. You can call him anytime. But that's our posture. We're here to serve you and your student. But we also want to be in partnership with you, and we want you to be continuing your engagement with your student to continue to help them grow and develop in their independence, so that they will become more and more able to troubleshoot on their own. It's part of their own development during these formative years. We can't continue throughout life to always come to their rescue, right? And so that's part of what we are wanting to help develop in the lives of all of our students here, is this sense of, ability for them to do the troubleshooting and to be discerning and wise in the decisions that they need to make. So the advice would be, try, if you're able to maybe break that natural inclination to just jump right in and fix it, ask them questions and encourage them to try to do some of that problem solving on their own.
That's great. That's really good wisdom. Can we give President Morris a round of applause? Thanks for sharing that. It's really good. Anybody else want to add to that? Go ahead, Faye.
I'll share a story
Go
since
ahead,
you
Louise.
asked. So in our daughter's first semester at APU, right before finals week, she came down with these unexplainable headaches, and she was otherwise a very healthy young woman. In fact, I don't think she had too many sick days throughout K through 12. So we were pretty alarmed, and right away we got the call she was already in the ER. So we got there, and we couldn't go in because of COVID. So we waited outside for a long time. And long story short, she came home with us that night, but then the headaches persisted for a number of days. And the plan was, okay, maybe she can manage finals. But then to a point in which she couldn't even get up. She couldn't even open her eyes. So because I work here, so I could tell her faculty to excuse her or to just write for her. But I didn't. I actually resisted that, and I made her email her professors. And just to let you know, all our faculty are so caring and supportive. Of course, they have high standard for academics, but they always understand when a student is going through something. So I'm so grateful that even though Evie wasn't able to take her finals at the time scheduled, she was able to make up all the work afterwards with a lot of support and grace, and she was able to finish her first semester with a bit of event, but nonetheless, she finished her first semester.
Thanks for sharing, Louise. That's really good. Well, great. Faith, you want to share some thoughts?
Well, I was just going to say, in regards to our daughters and autonomy, I remember our daughter had just completed, or almost completed, her freshman year. And I remember where I was in the kitchen when I got the call saying, Mom, it was almost more of a statement, respectfully, than asking. I think I want to go away for the summer and do an internship in Oregon. And I just remember in the moment how I felt, just a flood of feelings and wanting to say, no, you can't do that. What about our summer, up to, our plans to go to the Eastern Sierras we've done since she was probably a year old. And, but fortunately, with my husband and his wisdom, saying, no, we need to let her go, we did. And we let her go and do that internship. And I can't imagine her life now without having had that internship. It was really transformative for her in many ways. We kind of worked around the vacation aspect, and we loaded up some of our family, and we actually drove up to Oregon, and we went to see her for a week. She had some time. So anyways, hard to let her do that. And like my husband said, I think especially more for daughters than sons, but I'm just so thankful. Adam encouraged me to let her do that. So.
That's beautiful. Let's give First Lady a round of applause. That's excellent. So, okay, quick question. If we can have the house lights on just for a moment so we can see the audience. President Morris has shared that a little over 20% of our incoming students are first-generation college students. And cumulatively, I think we have about a third of our traditional undergraduate students who are first-generation college students. So if you're a family member of a student who is a first-generation college student, will you please stand? If you don't mind, just take a quick stand. You won't have to stand long. Let's give them a huge round of applause. This is a big deal. Come on, show them love. It's fantastic. So listen, we're glad you're here. Armando, maybe you can start by tackling this question. For first-gen families who are here, they've been a major support to their student making it to this point. Obviously, our first-gen students bring incredible agency and aptitude to our community. What wisdom, what advice would you offer to first-gen families on ways that they stay connected with their student? This is a new experience for them. And perhaps they don't have the experience of, other families that have had multiple students go through the collegiate experience. You've walked with hundreds of students in your role. Can you share some advice for our first-gen families?
Of course, and in just my experience, and as a first-gen student myself and working with families, as a parent, you bring a lot of wealth and experience to your son or daughter's journey, right? As a first-gen student, by definition, it means that as a parent, you haven't received that bachelor's degree, so you maybe didn't have that university experience, and so you may feel like unable, or maybe don't have the wisdom or the experience to support your student on this new journey. But I would say it's actually quite the opposite. We all experience and go through things that we've never done before. We all manage those new environments, and so you can help your student apply some of those skills and some of those lessons learned navigating new spaces to their experience navigating a new space themselves. They themselves have also probably navigated new spaces and helping flesh out some of those things. Some pieces of advice or encouragement is always be affirming to your student. And maybe college is a place where they are redefining who they are, they're exploring their passions, their interests, and that may cause some questions of, I thought you wanted to maybe major in this and major that, and this is a normal part of being a university student. I like to say being in the university environment is one of the best places to explore who you are, because in no other environment are you supported by so many other people. And I think that's something I really want to impart on you all, is that it's part of the process. But also, there's small things that you can do, right? If you're a commuter student, right, just being there is important. If they're up late studying, hey, let me get you a cup of coffee, right? I know when I was a student, when I was at home on a weekend doing homework, maybe because I like food, I'm a guy, my mom would offer me, hey, let me make you a meal late at night or whatever it is. There's those things that you can do as a parent, even if you maybe didn't have that collegiate experience, that affirm your desire for them to be in school and encourage them in that way. But that's just some things I really want to impart on you all as parents. And if I can do a quick plug, if that's okay. For our first-gen students, and I'm going to just share our email, trio SSS, so TRIOSSS @apu.edu. Feel free to send us an email if you have a student that's first-gen. We're happy to help them and support them along their journey here at APU.
Repeat that URL address just one more time.
So it's trio.
I can hear some people telepathically saying, I'm trying to catch that and write it down.
Yeah, so TRIOSSS @apu.edu. Feel free to shoot us an email, and we're happy to support you and your student along their journey at APU.
Aren't we blessed to have Armando on our team? Give him a huge round of applause. Appreciate you, Armando. Thanks for sharing. Okay, we're moving along, and I want to ask this question kind of word for word, and would love to hear from most, if not all of you. When you reflect and look back on the transition experience you shared with your student or students, if you could rewind back in time, what would you have done differently? We want the good stuff this afternoon.
Okay, I'll start with that. This would be more primarily for moms, but if I could do things differently, I wouldn't have used my tracking locator service on my phone as much. Try not to do that. It's hard not to, but what I learned as a mom, I would be awake, tracking, not because I wanted to control, but just because I was worried, and much more so with our girls and our guys. My husband, way more healthy, he was able, most of the time, just to go to sleep. But don't sleep deprive yourself for the next 4 years, because what you'll find out, and maybe you already know, and this is commuter or on campus, students' lives, the fun part of their day starts about 10 o'clock at night. We're done about 9 or 9:30. So I often would want the reassurance they were back in their dorm and in bed, and I might doze off and wake up and check, and it just is not healthy. So try to guard against that and entrust them to the Lord. And as the one mom so aptly said last night, all of us as parents have tried hard to instill in our kids wisdom, and we just hope that when they go to college, whether they're at home or not, that what we've instilled in them, they'll be wise in their choices. But in that vein, one more thing, we always encouraged our girls especially, but even our sons, encourage your kids always to go out with at least a friend or two or three. We all know it's not safe to be generally alone. And so, encourage them, just the buddy system, to go out.
Yeah, so maybe connected to that, just to piggyback, and this will sound cliche, and I don't mean it that way, but this idea of worrying less and trusting God more. I mean, I think for me that was a growth area for me, because I'm entrusting my kids to an institution. I feel like I've invested so much in them, and now I'm inviting someone else into that developmental process. And I can tell you, sitting in the chair I'm sitting in now here at APU, your kids will thrive here. We've got about 900 faculty and staff. And so we're coming alongside you. To Faith's point, you guys have done a marvelous job raising your kids. And there comes a point where you have to begin to let go. You're beginning to let them go at a place that's filled with men and women who have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, who are here because we love you and we love your kids. We're here to serve you and serve your kids. So you've now invited us into partnership with you in the holistic development of your student. And so we're trusting you with that. We're asking you to trust us with that. And ultimately, together, we're trusting God, right, for the development and growth of your kids. And so that's the partnership. That's how I define the partnership that we have with you. You're now inviting us in, and together we're sort of on this next leg of the journey with your students, trusting that God will do a great work in their hearts and lives. And as I mentioned last night, we're just so honored to have your students here. Yeah, thank you. I've said it many times to so many of you. Thank you for entrusting your students to us. It's an honor and privilege, and we will do everything we possibly can to serve you and your students in ways that honor you, that honor them, and ultimately that honor the Lord.
So I shared earlier, because I work here, I tried to not avoid my daughter when she first started here, but we wanted to give her space. So I didn't really set up these weekly check-in, and then she got busy and I got busy, and before you know it was the end of the semester. So if I were to rewind time, maybe I would set those weekly check-in, even a phone call or FaceTime. Coffee would be even greater. But I do enjoy celebrating every milestone. So the end of the first semester, end of the first major paper, end of the first year, those were the kind of things that I got to do with her.
Before Edie Dennis shares, let me interject something real quickly because what Louise shared, we hear a lot from students kind of informally. They love it when their parents, families send like that text message like right after a tough exam. Like if you know exactly what time they're taking an exam, like as soon as that block of time ends, for them to receive a message come through, like after that saying, hey, I've been praying for you. We hear from students that they love that, or maybe even a text message of a prayer, like that you send to them before they walk into that space before an exam. One other thought, students love care packages. They love like unexpected care packages that they receive in the mail. For some reason, they will walk the whole campus letting everybody know what they got from home. And so if there's a way to kind of send a package kind of unexpectedly and it becomes like a surprise, that provides a lot of energy and joy. I've actually had a student drop into my office with a tin of chocolate chip cookies. And like, look, my mom sent these to me today. And they were just ecstatic that they got something from home. And I was ecstatic that I got to indulge. So and it could be anything, like some of their favorite candy. If they love, Sour Patch Kids, or, probably want to hold off on the chocolate, at least in the summer. But some of their favorite things, if they like a certain kind of pair of socks that's comfortable for them to wear at night, or a favorite T-shirt, or depending on your budget, if they have like a favorite type of shoe that they like to wear, those types of items that they receive in the mail, it gives them a lot of energy on their journey. And so appreciate Louise for sharing her comments. Can we give her a round of applause? That made me think about that. It's good. Paul?
Well, Dr. Hall, you stole my thunder. Because, not to say that, I mentioned earlier I have three kids. 2 have navigated college successfully, and 1 is on the journey now. But as it relates to the 2 previously, not that me and my wife did it perfectly, but I wouldn't change anything as it relates to the educational side of their journey. But there is one thing I would change and done differently at home, and that is when we went to do our Sam's Club shopping every other week, I would have put an extra case of water in or some extra items, because when they came home, those items that I bought for the household ended up going to college. So that would be the one thing that I would have done a little bit different.
That's good. That's good. Fantastic. Yeah, you could applaud. You could applaud for that comment. That's good. All right, look, we're wrapping up, and you've been very gracious. Has this been good? Have you enjoyed it? Our panelists are fantastic, sharing really good thoughts and wisdom. So as we bring this conversation to a close, can you briefly share maybe a culminating piece of advice? It can be advice, it can be a word of encouragement to the families who are now part of this community as they prepare for this new season in their lives, in their students' lives. Armando, why don't we start with you, and let's hear from everybody, but let's conclude with President Morris, if that's okay. All right.
Yeah, 2 pieces of advice. First, encourage your student to get involved. There's a lot of opportunities on campus, employment, clubs, internships, research. Those are the things that are going to really make their experience unique and special. I went to undergrad at a large public institution where there was opportunities, but not always access, because there was so many students. And I think that's really special about APUs. There's opportunities, but opportunities for everybody to be involved in one way or the other. I think that's the beauty of it. But also as a commuter student, it may be easy for a student to get caught up going to class and coming home. And I think as parents, it'd be really important for you to encourage me, almost give them permission to, it's okay if you don't come home right away, stay for that club or go to that meeting. It's okay if you get home at 10 o'clock at night because you're in the library doing reading or whatever that is. I think that's important for our commuter students to hear, because I think they may feel obligated to be at home if they're not, because they may have other obligations, caring for siblings or just other things as well. And another other thing, especially for our first-gen students and all students, is normalizing that it's okay to ask for help. Right? We all will need some sort of support in our time in college. I remember I had to learn that lesson when I was in undergrad, and so I want to encourage you to normalize that for them. It's like, hey, have you asked that office? Have you gone to your professor? Have you spoken to an advisor or a campus pastor, whatever that may be? Because that's where they're going to get those connections and really get that support that they need. And there's one of the beauties of APU is we can support them in all their facets of their lives, academic, their personal lives, and even their spiritual lives.
Well, I think I would, wrap my advice to you in the form of 3 S's. And the first one is just remind them to be safe in everything that they do, right? Just remind them to be safe. The second thing is let them know that you support them, right? Just let them know, convince them, let them know you support them. And the most important S for me is that I would suggest is give them their space, right? Ensure they're safe, let them know you support them, and give them their space to grow and develop and figure out exactly who they are and who God wants them to be.
If I may put on my faculty hat, I want to encourage you to encourage your student to get to know the faculty. We all love teaching here. It's not just transferring information. We really care about the holistic development of every single student. So encourage the students to go to office hour, even if they don't have a question about what they're studying. I have students come to office hour, talk about relationship, talk about their family, talk about other things. They come over to my house for dinner, and we talk about non-chemistry things. I teach chemistry. So it always opens up an opportunity to help them, your students, to know more about who they are in Christ. So encourage them, even if there's nothing to ask about the class, which they probably do, go to office hours, get to know the faculty.
So just Dr. Hall touched on this last night, and when I saw the stats on it, it validated what we went through. Do not be surprised when your kids change majors. I know he touched on that so well. 2 of our kids changed majors. I won't tell you necessarily how many times, but it's greater than 3. So, and they're both are in successful careers and are doing great. But more, our generation, we entered college, you had a career in mind, you had that major, and you graduated, and you did it the rest of your life. But as we all know, this generation, they're more relational, and they want to be in a career that is fulfilling, and so they may change their major. So don't let that, take you off guard, as Dr. Hall said last night. And then what we tell our kids, or we used to, there's no other season in life like college. There really isn't. And, once they're done, we all know the rigors of life and work, it just changes, and that's a new season. But enter into the joy of this season with them. They only have it for 4 years. And for us to maybe burden them, as I could tend to do with worry, or it really robs their joy, as Adam said. So just enter into the joy of what's before them.
Yeah, I think my final piece of advice would be to encourage your students to plug into the local church. APU is not the church. I think in Christian colleges all across the country, it could be very natural to say, I'm at a Christian university, as Dr. Johnson was sharing. We're here, we do faith integration very well across all the disciplines. Undergraduate students here have a certain number of required Bible units. You're required to be in chapel. We're in this space Monday and Wednesday. We're on the other campus Thursday night and Friday. It's easy when you're in the Christian college scene as a student to think that the Christian college has now become my church. This is where I'm getting Bible teaching. It's where I'm engaged in worship. It's where I'm in fellowship with other believers. But I can tell you, as someone who's now, I'm in my 13th month here, I've had meetings this last year with 60 different pastors. in the local area. And the local pastors, they long to have APU students plugged into their church. In fact, some churches depend on and really are in desperate need of APU students who will come and help and be involved in youth programs and children's ministry and worship leaders. And so you've heard of that church, Bedside Baptist, right? Where, what do they say, where Pastor Sheets speaks on the Great Comforter, right? I don't want to walk through, which I don't, but like if I were to walk through the residence halls on a Sunday morning and I were to find most of our students at Bedside Baptist, heaven forbid, like that is not what we would want for your students. We really long for them to not only thrive here, but to be engaged in local ministry through the local church. So my I guess, piece of advice would be, if you're local and your students are already plugged into the local church, make sure that continues. If you're local or out of the area and you're not quite sure if your kids have landed at a church, maybe a month from now in one of those informal ways without sounding like mom or dad, just ask them, hey, have you had a chance to find a good church in the area? And there are so many great churches in the area. And Keith, you might even say a word or two about this, but through Keith's office, there are all sorts of resources available so that students can find where are the churches in this area, how do they get there, right, in terms of transportation. And so there's a whole infrastructure to help facilitate that. But APU is not the church. And we really want to see our students not only fully engaged here, but engaged in local ministry.
Really good. Can we thank President Morris for sharing that wisdom? Really, really good. Actually, in the month of September, we have a Love for Local week. And many of our pastors at local churches will be present with us on campus. They will have many of their members on Cougar Walk, kind of explaining some of the opportunities for our students to be engaged at the local church. We hope that during that week you encourage your students to engage. Also, your student can reach out to our spiritual life team. And so you heard from the campus pastors during the Thriving at APU session this morning, and they've had an opportunity to engage with the spiritual life team. That is a wonderful group of pastors and staff members who would delight in being able to refer students to incredible local churches that have thriving ministries to support and engage our college students. And so we're really excited about this upcoming year. And one thing I want to put, I don't think I've mentioned it, I'm sure it's come up and you've definitely gathered it from some of the symbolism that you've seen on T-shirts and banners. We are celebrating APU's 125th year anniversary this week. Or excuse me, not this week, but this year. And that's exciting, and we see significance that's associated with your student being an incoming student during this incredible milestone year. And so we're so thrilled that you are part of this community. Thank you for being generous and receiving the wisdom. Can we give a huge round of applause to the panelists? Before we release them, President Morris, will you be so kind to render a prayer blessing for our families as we prepare to transition?
Lord Jesus, we love you, and we are so honored as a community to be here on a day like today. Thank you for the families that are represented in this room and the students that are here with them. Lord, as we have said over these last few days, we are so incredibly grateful that you are entrusting these students into our care. And Lord, we do see this as a partnership with these families, that together we collectively might invest in and train and equip these young men and women to be difference makers in the world for the cause of Jesus Christ. And so, Lord, as we continue throughout this afternoon, culminating tomorrow with our service right here in this space tomorrow morning, we pray, Lord, that you would continue to provide comfort, joy, a deep, deep sense of peace in the hearts and lives of these families and students. Lord, that you might reinforce in their hearts the call that you have placed on these students to be here at APU for just such a time as this. Lord, we love you. We're grateful for a conversation like this today. Would you bless the remainder of this day, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen.
Let's give them another round of applause. Thank you so much. So if you can hang with us for about 7 more minutes, we are going to reintroduce Paul Dennis. Paul serves as the executive director of our campus safety department. We want you to have an acute awareness of our commitment to the safety of your student. And Paul has been just a remarkable partner and an incredible resource to all of our students. Please welcome to the podium our executive director for campus safety, Paul Dennis.
Okay. Well, again, can you hear me okay? There we go. All right. As Dr. Hall mentioned, I'm Paul Dennis. I'm the Executive Director of Campus Safety, and I've served in this capacity for the last 5 years. Let me just share just a little bit about my story, if you don't mind. Born to a Jamaican mother, a Grenadian father. I was born in England, and I came to this country when I was about 8 years old. Grew up not far from here in West Covina. In high school, loved basketball, but I was better at track and field than I was at basketball. And thankfully, Azusa Pacific University, my JV basketball coach was a graduate of here, and he introduced me to APU. So I came here to APU on an athletic scholarship. Funny story. While I was here, and Dr. Hall has heard this story a few times, but I like telling it, so I'm going to share it with you. My freshman year, we won a national championship. Pretty cool? Yeah? Yeah? My sophomore year, we won a national championship. Uh-oh. See a pattern. My junior year, we win a national championship. That's not too shabby, right? Yeah? What would have been my senior year, I had a stress fracture in my foot, so I had to redshirt, and I couldn't compete. They lost the national championship. I came back the next year for my senior year. We won a national championship. I'm not saying it had anything to do with me, but I just like how that happened. And so I tell that story any chance that I get. So I get to my senior year. I studied psychology, wasn't sure what I was going to do. My coach called me in and said, Paul, what's next for you? And long story short, just turned my eyes to God and asked God, what do you have in store for me? And God has a sense of humor and sent me 3 blocks west of here to the Azusa Police Department, where I spent 26 years as a law enforcement officer there. I started as a jailer, and just through hard work and determination, worked a variety of assignments and retired in 2018 as a captain there. And then, thank you, I appreciate the support, thank you. So in 2018, I was still too young to go sit on my porch in a rocking chair. So I turned my eyes to God once again and I said, Lord, what do you have planned for me now? And he said, I got another joke for you, son. He said, pack your bags and go 3 blocks east, right where you started, and I want you to do your work for me, do my work there. And it's amazing because when I came to APU, I didn't know what my life's journey was, but God did, right? And I truly believe I'm here back at APU, and God prepared me and placed me here intentionally, because he could have sent me out to any other city around to do law enforcement work, but he chose to keep me in this community, because I think his ultimate purpose was to bring me right back here so that we can figure out how we can keep our families, our staff, our faculty safe. And so it feels great to have a purpose and to have a mission and to know why I'm here doing what I do. Oops, I think I went the wrong way, sorry. So this is a campus safety team, all right? It's a team of 27 men and women that are committed to keeping our campus as safe as we can. But we all know just as well as I do that 27 people can't do this job alone, so it takes a full community. Before I came over and speaking with you all, I had an opportunity to speak with your loved ones over there, and it was quite the party over there. I almost didn't want to leave. We was having fun, all right? But But I told them it's going to take all of us, right? It's going to take all of us to look out for each other, to make sure that we keep our campus and keep each other as safe as we possibly can. But the men and women that you see on this screen are dedicated to doing that. We have the folks in the red. Those are my dispatchers who run our communications center, or some of my other administrative folks that just keep the in-house shop running. The folks in the blue shirts, those are my campus safety officers. We have what's called a hybrid department here at APU, meaning that we have both unarmed staff and armed staff on our campus. So the blue shirts are my members of my unarmed team. The folks in the picture that you see wearing the gray, much like the uniform I have on today, are members of my armed staff, and I'll share a little bit more about them later on. So campus safety is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I don't let my team sleep. I'm just kidding. I do. I let them go home. But we're always open, right? Inevitably, students are going to lock themselves out of their room. If they're in a hurry to get to class or whatever, doesn't matter what time of day or night, there's always someone on campus from campus safety that's going to be able to help them manage whatever that particular crisis may be at that moment. We patrol on foot, on bikes, in cars. We are on East Campus, West Campus. We're in the living spaces, whether it's the dorms or the off-campus apartments over at University Village. We try to keep as much visibility as we possibly can. In addition to the patrols that we have out there, we lean into technology as much as we can as well. So there's cameras in a variety of places throughout our campus that's also monitored by our communications center. Excuse me. So some of you may have already ridden on the trolley that traverses between West Campus and East Campus. That typically runs from, don't quote me on the hour, 7 in the morning or so till about 10 or 11 at night. But when it does stop, Campus Safety makes available a safety escort service for our students, right? So anytime a student may feel that, they want Campus Safety to kind of escort them back and forth, and it's a safety matter, we encourage them to call us. Now, I made it clear to your students, we're not an Uber, we're not Lyft, right? But I don't want them to ever hesitate to call Campus Safety if they needed an escort to get back and forth. We offer what's called a rape aggression defense class for our female students. So please, I encourage you, those of you that are dropping off your daughter or female family member here with us, to encourage them to keep an eye out for our rape aggression defense class. They're not going to graduate that program as a black belt martial artist or ready to get in the octagon or anything like that, right? But what they will guarantee, I can assure you they'll graduate with, is a bit more confidence, right? A confidence in a few little tools to have in their tool belt in the unlikely event they found themselves in a situation where they had to get physical with someone. So please, our rape aggression defense class, I have 5 or 6 certified instructors on my team that enjoy teaching folks this particular class. So I would encourage you to encourage your loved one to sign up for it. Parking services, if your student has a car on campus, that car does have to be registered, right? And there are certain places on campus, designated areas where they can park, certain areas that they cannot park. Parking is very accessible, so they would not have a problem finding somewhere to park, and typically even in close proximity to where they may be residing. We have employment opportunities for students on campus safety as well. So if your student is looking for employment while on campus, although there's a lot of different areas where they can work on campus, I'm obviously going to be biased and say campus safety is the best place. So encourage them to come work with our team. Community engagement. Every one of the living areas will have a designated campus safety officer that's assigned to that area. And it's for a multiple of reasons. I really want my team to really be connected with our students. I've shared with our team, and one of my goals and one of my expectations of my staff is, we know that it's our job to keep the community safe and to keep our students safe. But equally important, if not more important to me, is that I want campus safety to contribute to the success of our students, right? I want us to contribute to their success. I'll share with you what I shared with your students before I came over. I mentioned I did my undergraduate studies here many, many years ago. I actually came back and did my master's work here many years ago. But going back to my undergraduate years, I can honestly say in all the things that I have done in life and things that I've seen and opportunities I've had, when I reflect back on my 4.5 years that I spent here at APU, they were amongst the most joyous 4 years of my life. And I truly mean that. I'm not just saying that because my boss and the president's in the room. I genuinely mean that, right? And so I challenge my team and I tell my team that I want us to do whatever we can to contribute to the success of our students, to make their experience here at APU a positive one so that 30, 40 years from now when they reflect back on that, their thought of campus safety is a positive one. They can say back, man, those guys and gals really had my back. They made it enjoyable for me. That's important to me, and I insist that from my team. So getting our staff into those living spaces and spending time with your students is how we build that relationship and get to know them and garner their trust, right? So that's really important. We do presentations with the different groups around campus. We recognize and understand that folks come from all different spaces, all different parts of the country, all different parts of the world. As I said, I came from a different part of the world, right? And it's important that we understand each other and respect the variances and differences that we have, right? And I'm thankful to Dr. Hall because him and his team over the last couple of years has come into campus safety and provided some really good cultural diversity training, implicit bias training, just giving us awareness and understanding of the different walks of life and different spaces we come from, and perhaps even the different interactions that some of our students may have had with law enforcement or campus safety divisions. We respect that, and we want our students to understand that we respect that we come from different places, and that that's why we want to be connected with them and make sure that they understand that. If during the time that they're here, campus, they have any concerns with campus safety, we have a forum where they can bring those concerns forward, and that's our Community Advisory Committee. And that's a committee that's made up of different components or different areas of the university. There's student representation on that committee, there's faculty representation, staff representation, and it's chaired by the area of student belonging, right? So that's an area where if anyone had any concerns about campus safety, perhaps some of the regulations that we enforce, et cetera, there's a forum where they can bring those things forward and their voices would be heard. Something really important that I shared with your students is our emergency notification system. This is how we will communicate with your students, with your loved one, in the event of an incident here on campus. California is a beautiful place, right? Palm trees and stuff, beaches and snow-capped mountains in the winter. But every now and then the ground shakes in California, right? We've got these things called earthquakes. Sometimes the hillsides might burn, right, with forest fires. And the time to be prepared for them or to have a plan for them is not in the midst of that crisis, right? We've got to have a plan ahead of time. And so the way we will notify your folks, your students, is a couple of ways. If they're out at practice on a field and they don't have their electronic device in their hand, their cell phone, we have a public address system that has a siren on it. We call it a Wayland system. So that system will give an audible siren that'll go off, followed by a verbal communication, giving them instructions as to what to do, all right? The next piece that we have is what's called our Everbridge system. This is a text mass notification system delivered via text message or a phone call. So if we have an incident, much like Tropical Storm Hillary that came by last weekend, we sent out an Everbridge notification letting our community know that we are monitoring that situation. And as circumstances change, we will communicate directions and things to do. Fortunately, that storm did not impact our community very much at all. So we didn't have to send out too many Everbridge notifications on that one, but that would be the vehicle that we would use to get critical information out to your students. We also utilize Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and I would encourage you to please, before you go home, encourage your loved one to follow us on those platforms. But probably the biggest one that I would like to ask your help in is making sure that your loved one uploads a safety app that we have called Safe APU. And I'd love to take credit for us adopting Safe APU, but I can't. In 2019, because of a commitment that our students had to making sure that our university was as safe as it possibly could be, I had one of our students come into my office and say, hey, Mr. Dennis, I learned about this app that other universities are using that I think can help keep us a little bit safer. I said, I like that, right? And long story short, we were able to get Safe APU. And this thing has some really, really great features on it. I won't go into all of them with you, but there's one that I will share with you, and it's called Friend Walk. If they open up Safe APU and hit the Friend Walk app, we're over here on West Campus. Most of our residences, if not all of our residences, are over on East Campus. They can press Friend Walk. It'll send a message to that friend, whoever that friend may be. On that friend's phone, it will pop up with an interactive map and a dot. And as they're walking, that dot will just move, showing exactly where their friend is, right? And if along that journey, something came up and they needed some assistance, the app will send the friend a message to tell them exactly where they are. So they're at the intersection of walk and don't walk. So that friend will know exactly where they're at to go and meet them there, or can call campus safety and tell us where they're at and we can go there. In this app, there's also, all of our safety tools, our emergency plans. What do I do in a lockdown? What do I do if I have to shelter in place? What do I do during an earthquake? All of that information is in Safe APU. So please, before you leave for the weekend, check your loved one's phone and make sure that they've uploaded Safe APU. And we're actually doing a raffle prize drawing right now for the spring semester, where if they upload that and follow us on Instagram, they could win a free parking pass next semester. So there's some incentive in there, right? Sorry, one more point on this slide. Our critical incident response team. So I mentioned emergency preparedness is something that we take extremely serious here. Our critical incident response team is comprised of various persons from different areas of the university, the faculty side, our staff side. It's the team meets monthly. It's chaired by our emergency preparedness manager. And the objective is just to make sure that we are always prepared, right? Making sure that our emergency operations plans for a variety of incidents are in place. So rest assured that we take a proactive approach to emergency preparedness rather than just a reactive approach to it. Evacuation signs, there's various evacuation zones around our university that your students are educated on. That's what the signs look like there, so they will know where they need to go in the event of an emergency. I shared with you my experience with Azusa Police Department, so our relationship with Azusa PD to the west is extremely strong. I know a lot of those folks. To the east, Glendora Police Department, we partner well with them. To the south is Covina and West Covina, and then the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department has jurisdiction over the unincorporated areas within the city of Azusa, and our partnership with law enforcement and local fire departments. There's 2 fire stations in the city of Azusa, both less than 3/4 of a mile from the campus. So we're surrounded by some outstanding resources where we are here. One of the things that I think helped me navigate a successful 25-year law enforcement career is because I worked for an entity that had a strong commitment to training, right? The reality is that you're only going to perform as well as you train and as well as you practice, and I'm a firm believer in that. And so we have a commitment to training within my shop. That list of items that you see there is just a snippet of some of the things that we train on. The list goes well beyond that, but the bottom one is, as we all know, a very, very important one, right? I pray to God that something like that never happened on this campus, but I'll stand up on this stage right now and tell you that if something like that came to this campus, we're prepared to respond to it. And I know Azusa PD is prepared to respond to it, and Glendora PD is prepared to respond to it. Just 2 weeks ago, we had all of the Azusa Police Department on our campus, all of their patrol officers, where we did a collaborative joint active shooter response training, because that's the level of seriousness that we have as it relates to being prepared for all of these type of things. So I'll end with this. I just wanted to point out the special service officers. These are not individuals that we just randomly pick to serve in this capacity. It's a significant responsibility and obligation, and my commitment as the Director of Campus Safety here at the university is to find the right people to do and serve in that capacity. So we don't just select folks based on the minimum standards, right? We put anyone that is selected in as a special service officer here goes through a really rigorous hiring process, right? Probably the most rigorous hiring process on the campus, probably, right? They go through a full background investigation, a polygraph, a psych, a medical, numerous interviews. They have to have gone through a California Certified Police Academy, not just have a simple guard card to carry a firearm. That's not the standard here at Azusa Pacific University for our special service officers. So rest assured, the folks that are out there protecting your students and the folks that are going to be the first ones on scene on a significant critical incident, they're not new to it, and they understand. So please, as you travel home, I think one of the things that I said that was important to me was safety, right? As it relates to my own daughter, again, I'm committed to you that we're going to make this place as safe as we possibly can, but we need the help of your students to do their part as well, right? So remind them of that as well. That's all I have for you. I think did I do okay on time, Dr. Hall? The information up here is where you can reach Campus Safety. If you have any questions, I'll be floating around here a little bit, but if you don't catch me here, please email me. I will reply to you. Call me. If you're on campus, stop by my office. I encourage it. Tell your students to stop by my office. My prayer for them is that they enjoy their experience here at APU, so that when they look back and reflect back on this time, it was a joyous period in their life for them. So to all of you, safe travels home, and welcome to the APU family.